The alarm clock went off, and I slapped it quiet. Another day. I lay there for a minute just listening. The house was so quiet in the mornings. It had been 2 years since my wife passed away, and the quiet still felt like a weight on my chest. My first thought was always of my daughter. Was she okay? Did she have a bad dream? I got up and started the routine. The routine was what kept me going. Shower, get dressed, start the coffee. I moved around the kitchen quietly. My daughter's whole day was built around little rituals that made her feel safe. Her toast had to be cut into triangles. Her juice had to be in the blue cup. I got everything ready just right. Then I went to wake her. Her door was always open a little. I pushed it open and smelled that familiar smell of baby shampoo and crayons. My wife had painted stars on the ceiling that glowed in the dark. In the morning light, they were just pale spots. My daughter was already awake, sitting up in bed and holding her teddy bear. Her mother had given it to her. The fur was all matted down and one eye was loose, but it was her most important thing. "Morning, sweet pea," I said, my voice rough from sleep. She looked at me with her big, serious eyes. "Toast triangles?" she asked softly. "Toast triangles," I confirmed. They got a little nod from her. Getting her dressed was another little negotiation. She pulled on the dinosaur t-shirt she had already worn twice that week and some purple leggings. I did not fight it. Hanging on her door was a yellow raincoat. It was getting too small for her. My wife had bought it for her right before she got sick. My daughter would not even think about getting a new one. After I dropped her off at school, the emptiness of the house was the worst part of my day. I went to my job in an office. I sat in a cubicle and moved numbers around on a computer screen. It was fine. It paid our bills. But the loneliness was eating me alive. I missed talking to another grown-up. I missed the sound of someone else in the house. I missed being hugged. That is when I met her. It was at a coffee shop near my work. I spilled my drink all over my shirt and she laughed. It was not a mean laugh. It was a warm and genuine sound that made me look up. She handed me a stack of napkins with a smile. She was beautiful and had an energy that seemed to light up the whole place. We started talking. She was a graphic designer. She was fun and spontaneous. She made me feel like a person again, not just a dad. When I told her about my wife, her eyes got soft with real sympathy. When I told her about my daughter, she did not look scared away. She said she would love to meet her. I introduced them a month later. My stomach was in knots. I had hoped so much that her bright and sunny personality would warm up my daughter's quiet and sad little world. She brought a doll with long hair you could brush. It was the kind all the girls were supposed to want. My daughter took it, said a quiet "thank you," and put it carefully on the couch. Then she went back to holding her teddy bear. "She is shy," I explained to her later. "It takes time." She just smiled and squeezed my hand. "Of course it does. Do not worry." For a few weeks it seemed like it might maybe work. She came over for dinners. She tried to play games with my daughter. My daughter was polite, but she kept her distance. The first real problem showed up on a Saturday. She was helping me fold laundry, which was really nice of her. She held up the yellow raincoat. "This looks a little small for her, does not it?" she said, her voice light and practical. "We should go shopping, get her something new and bright. Maybe a pink one with flowers." A cold feeling tightened in my stomach. I gently took the coat from her and hung it back on its hook. "It was from her mother," I said, my voice softer than I meant it to be. "She loves it." Her smile was understanding, but it did not quite reach her eyes. "Of course," she said. But I saw the way she looked at the coat, like it was an old thing that needed to be thrown out. Another time, she stood in the doorway to my daughter's room. "You know, we could maybe update this room a little. Make it more fun for a growing girl. Paint over these stars, get her some cool new furniture." I felt a spike of panic. "No," I said. "This room is important. She just needs time." I was pleading with her, and I think she mistook my fear for me being weak. Her smile was tight. "I know you think that, but you cannot live in the past forever." I saw her frustration starting to build. She was trying so hard, and from her point of view, she was being rejected by a 7-year-old. She started to see my daughter's sadness not as something natural, but as a wall she was building on purpose. And she saw me as the guy who was letting it happen. That night after she had gone home, I tucked my daughter into bed under her glowing stars. She looked at me, her eyes wide and serious. "Daddy," she whispered, her little voice shaking. "Does she want to take Mommy's place?" Before I could even form an answer, a sob caught in her throat. "I do not want a new mom. I want my mom." I gathered her up, teddy bear and all, and held her tight as she cried. My own heart was breaking. As I looked over her shoulder at the stars on the ceiling, I felt the first real crack in the future I had dared to hope for with her. The house was quiet again, but it no longer felt empty. It felt like it was waiting for a storm. The storm came the first time my daughter had a bad dream while she was staying over. The sound of her crying for mommy did not feel like a plea for comfort. It felt like the start of a fight. It was a little past 2 in the morning. The sound was a shrill and panicked scream that ripped me from a deep sleep. I was out of my bed and halfway to her room before I was fully awake. She was slower to get up, sitting up in bed with a confused groan. I found my daughter thrashing in her sheets, her face wet with tears, caught in some terror I could not see. "Mommy, I want mommy," she sobbed. I gathered her up, holding her close, rocking her and whispering that it was okay, that daddy was here. Her small body was stiff with fear. She appeared in the doorway, her shape framed by the hall light. She did not come in. She just stood there with her arms crossed over her robe, watching us. Her face showed concern, but also something else, something harder. Impatience. "She just had a bad dream," I whispered, as if explaining it would make it better. She just nodded slowly. "She has them a lot, does not she?" It was not really a question. The next morning she was full of new ideas. She arrived with shopping bags, her smile bright and determined. "I thought we could give your daughter a little refresh," she announced, pulling out a stack of new clothes. They were nice clothes, stylish. Little jeans, striped shirts, a fancy dress. They were nothing like my daughter's favorite faded dinosaur shirt. She presented them to my daughter with a big smile. "Look what I got for you, do not you love them?" My daughter looked at the pile of new clothes, her face blank with confusion. She did not say anything. She just quietly walked to her drawer, pulled out her dinosaur shirt, and held it tightly to her chest. My heart sank. "She is just not used to them," I said to her later, trying to make things better. "She will come around." Her smile was thin. "She is 7 years old. She knows exactly what she is doing." I found the new clothes later, stuffed into the very back of my daughter's closet. Her old clothes were still neatly folded in her drawer. When she discovered this, her face fell. "See, she is doing this on purpose. She is playing you, and you are letting her." I felt stuck in the middle. I was so tired. Tired of the sadness, tired of the quiet, tired of carrying it all by myself. A part of me wanted her to be right. A part of me wanted to just pack all the old things away and start new. It would be so much easier. But then I would look at my daughter's quiet, sad face, and I knew I could not do that. The big thing happened on a Tuesday. I had a big presentation at work and could not leave. She had offered to watch my daughter after school. I came home, tired but relieved my presentation was over, expecting the usual quiet house. What I walked into was a complete shock. She stood in the living room, beaming with pride. "Surprise," she said. My eyes went past her to my daughter's bedroom. The door was open. The lavender walls were gone, painted over with a bright lime green. The glow in the dark stars were gone. The old furniture was gone, replaced by a sleek white bed and desk. It was a beautiful modern room, but it was a stranger's room. My breath caught in my throat. "You painted it," I managed to say. "I did more than that," she said, pulling me inside. "I packed up all that old sad stuff. It is all in bins in the garage. It was time for a change, do not you think, a fresh start." I felt like I was going to be sick. I looked around, my heart pounding. Every trace of my wife, every trace of the world my daughter knew was gone. Just then the front door opened, and my daughter came in from the backyard. She walked towards her room, probably to get her teddy bear. She stopped in the doorway. She did not cry. She did not scream. She just stood there completely still. She looked at the lime green walls, the new bed, the empty ceiling. Her face went pale. She did not say a single word. She just turned around and walked silently to the living room couch, where she sat down and stared at her hands. That silence was worse than any crying fit. It was a deep and terrible shock. That night the bad dream came back. It was worse than before. Her screams were raw and filled with a new kind of terror. I got to her room first, finding her in her new unfamiliar bed, tangled in new unfamiliar sheets. She was in the doorway again, her arms crossed. As I tried to calm my daughter down, she clung to me, her cries for mommy echoing off the bright green walls. I looked over my daughter's shaking head and met her gaze. Her eyes were not soft with sympathy. They were hard with a cold resolve. In a voice that was low and sharp, cutting right through my daughter's sobs, she said, "This has to stop. We need to talk. Now." I felt a cold dread wash over me. The conversation we were about to have was going to change everything. I was terrified of what she was going to say, but for the first time I was not terrified of my answer. I held my daughter tighter, ready to protect the one thing that truly mattered, and I knew our quiet life was about to get very loud. The words hit me so hard it felt difficult to breathe. Your daughter needs to accept that I am her new mom now. She stood in the kitchen with her arms crossed and her face set in a hard line. The love I had felt for her just hours before vanished in that moment, replaced by a cold and clear understanding. I finally saw the truth. This was not about helping my daughter. This was a battle, and my daughter's sadness was the enemy. I tried to stay calm. My voice was quiet, a plea. You cannot just erase her mother. You have to give her time. But she was past listening. All her frustration, her feeling of being left out, boiled over. It has been 2 years, she snapped, her voice shaking with anger. She is manipulating you, and you are letting her. You are so afraid of her being sad that you are letting her hold this whole family hostage to a ghost. She waved a hand toward my daughter's room. Every time she calls for mommy, it is a slap in my face, and you just comfort her. When do I get to be comforted? When do we get to be a real family? That is when everything became perfectly clear. The new clothes, the painted room, the impatience with the bad dreams. It was not love for my daughter driving this. It was a desperate need to win. She saw my child's pain as a personal insult, a fight she had to win. My own loneliness had made me blind to the problems that were now right in front of my face. A strange calm settled over me. The fear was gone. My path was suddenly obvious. My voice, when I spoke, was quiet but left no room for argument. There is no we, I said. There is only my daughter, and you are a danger to her happiness. You need to leave. Now. It is over. The rest of the night was a blur of harsh words and stunned silence. She, seeing the finality in my eyes, tried to take it back. Her voice got softer, pleading. I did not mean it like that. I just want what is best for her. For us. But it was too late. The door had been shut in my mind and soon, literally, in her face. I helped her pack her things that were at my house, moving like a robot. I did not feel angry anymore. I just felt a deep, hollow sadness for the time I had lost, for the hope I had placed in the wrong person. After her car pulled away, I sat on the floor of my daughter's new wrong-looking room, and I cried. I did not cry for her. I cried for my daughter and for my own foolishness. The next month was about rebuilding. I took the better job at work I had been unsure about, the one with longer hours. It meant I had to find a real solution for my daughter. I could not do it alone anymore, and I would never risk bringing someone like her into our lives again. I hired a nanny. Her name was Maria, and her job history was full of experience with children. She had a calm presence and a kind smile. She had been with us for 2 weeks, and my daughter, while still quiet, did not pull away when she was around. It was a start. I was sitting at my new bigger desk trying to focus on my computer when my phone buzzed. It was a text from her. I was wrong. I am so sorry. I am outside. I just want to talk. I brought a gift for her. Can we please start over? My blood ran cold. I stood up so fast my chair rolled back and hit the wall. I looked out my office window toward my home, and my only thought was a desperate, silent scream. What as she walked into, I did not even bother to reply. My heart was pounding as I grabbed my keys and ran for the car. The drive home was a blur of terrible thoughts. What was she saying to my daughter? Was she scaring her? Was she trying to force that gift on her? I drove too fast, my hands tight on the steering wheel. I had to get to my little girl. I turned onto my street, and my eyes instantly looked at my house. I saw her car pulling away from the curb. My pulse shot up. I looked at my front porch. Maria was there holding my daughter. My daughter was crying, her little body shaking with sobs. And sitting on the welcome mat was a brightly wrapped gift, looking small and sad and completely out of place. I slammed my car to a stop, not even pulling into the driveway right. I threw the door open and hurried toward my house, my mind racing with a fear I thought was gone. Who was here? What did they say to her? My only thought was for my daughter's safety. Maria saw me coming, and her face was calm but concerned. She took a little fall on the porch step, she explained softly before I could even ask. She scraped her knee. We were just having a moment about it. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The tears were real, but they were the simple, honest tears of a scraped knee, not the silent, terrified shock the other woman had caused. Maria was kneeling, holding her close, not telling her to be quiet, but understanding her. I know, sweetheart, it stings so much, does not it? Let us take a big breath together. You are being so brave. She pulled a brightly colored bandage from her pocket and made a whole show of it, having my daughter blow on the hurt spot to make the magic work before she placed it gently on her knee. My daughter, comforted, rested her head on Maria's shoulder, her sobs turning into quiet sniffles. It was a sign of complete trust. I felt the tight knot of panic in my chest begin to loosen. Maria then looked up at me. A woman was here just a minute ago. She said she had the wrong house. She pointed to the gift on the mat. She left that. I looked at the abandoned present and then back down the empty street where her car had disappeared. I finally understood. She had come here ready for a fight, armed with an apology and a present. But she had not found a broken little girl she could save or a weak father she could convince. She had found a child being cared for, a home that was working, a door being held open by her replacement. She was not a threat or a rival anymore. She was just a person who had gotten the address wrong. The sight of my daughter being comforted so naturally by Maria was the final truth she had to face. She saw the very thing my child needed all along, and it was not her. I picked up my daughter, bandaged knee and all, and held her close. She wrapped her arms around my neck. "Daddy," she whispered. "I was brave. You were so brave," I said, my voice thick with a feeling I could not name. I looked at Maria over my daughter's shoulder and gave her a small, thankful nod. She smiled back, a simple, professional smile. I carried my daughter inside, not even looking at the gift on the mat. It did not belong here. It never did. I closed the door, not with a slam, but with a firm, final click. The house was quiet, but for the first time in a long time, the quiet felt peaceful. It was just us again, me and my daughter, and that was all we ever needed to be. The phone in my pocket felt heavy, a reminder that the outside world was still there, but for now it could wait. Life settled into a new and peaceful rhythm. The lime green room did not last. The first weekend after everything happened, my daughter and I went to the garage and brought all the bins back inside. We spent a whole day putting her room back together. We did not have the glow in the dark stars anymore, but we found some stickers of planets and moons at the store and put those up instead. We painted the walls a soft blue, a color she picked out herself. It was not the same as before, but it was hers again. It felt right. Maria became a steady and gentle presence in our lives. She was not trying to be a new mom. She was just a good and reliable grown-up who knew how to talk to a quiet little girl. My daughter started to smile more, a real smile that reached her eyes. She even started drawing pictures for Maria, which she would proudly present when I got home from work. I felt like I could breathe again. I was doing my job well and coming home to a happy child. The heavy feeling in my chest started to lift. One evening, about 2 months after the incident on the porch, I was reading a bedtime story to my daughter. She was tucked in under her blanket, Mr. Snuffles held tightly under her arm. When I finished the book, she looked at me, her face serious in the dim light. "Daddy," she said, "is the lady with the present ever coming back?" Her question caught me off guard. I had hoped she had forgotten. "No, sweet pea," I said, smoothing her hair. "She is not coming back. This is just you and me." She thought about that for a moment, then gave a small, satisfied nod and closed her eyes. I sat there for a long time after she fell asleep, watching her. She was safe. She was happy. We had made it through. The next morning was a Saturday, bright and sunny. I was making pancakes, my daughter was chattering about a dream she had, and the doorbell rang. The sound was so normal, yet it made my whole body go still. My daughter looked at me, her eyes wide. Maria was not due for another hour. I walked to the door, my heart doing a slow, heavy beat in my chest. I did not know who was on the other side. It could be a neighbor, a delivery person, or it could be someone from the past, not ready to let go. I put my hand on the doorknob, took a deep breath, and wondered if our new peace was about to be tested.